Good morning, friends. Brooke from LegaSHE. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you oh so much. I'm really enjoying the comments. I'm really enjoying the feedback that I'm getting from some of you whom I've never met before. This journey seems to be resonating with some folks really, really well. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I can be helpful. I'm grateful that the things that I'm putting out into the world, I'm not expecting anything in return. If it's helpful, awesome. If it doesn't help you, leave it. That's fine too. So I'm just really, really grateful that I can help some people. If I help just one person, I've done my job for the day. Actually, I've done my job for many days by helping one person. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try to help more people because that makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing here. So thanks for coming along on the journey. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about setting up a business and some of the key things that you want to think about as you're in the process of setting up a business. Now, anyone who tells you that there is a guidebook and you follow that guidebook exactly and it all works out perfectly is just completely lying. There are themes in how you're setting up a business or the steps that you might take as you're setting up a business, but I am not going to go through a rule book here. I'm just going to talk at a high level about some of the key components that help you along the way as you're setting up. So I want to talk a little bit about, making sure that you set yourself up, sort of structurally set yourself up appropriately. I know I have friends and business associates who sort of wing it for a while before they get really real with the structure of their entity. And I'm here to tell you that I don't do that because I want to make sure that I have checked a lot of boxes at the beginning. So that it just gives me peace of mind. And it's that ounce of prevention is worth more than the pound of cure mentality. That's sort of how I run at it. But I create a lot of flexibility for myself as I'm going down that path. So I'll talk a little bit about, for example, the business I'm in process of setting up right now. I have guardrails, but I don't have perfection within those guardrails. So I'll explain that a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the structure of your business. I'm going to talk a little bit about leaving that flexibility for yourself. And then maybe I'll talk a little bit about product market fit and how you do that assessment for yourself to determine whether or not you've got something that can actually work. So come along with me as we do this. Okay, my friends. Point one, the structure of your business. Everyone is sitting in a different location in the world. So the feedback that I offer is US centric, and therefore it may or may not be applicable to you. But from the US standpoint, you can operate as a solo practitioner in your own name for a very long time, sort of as an individual who's in business, and all of your outcomes, all of the revenues, expenses flow through you personally without there being a liability shield between you and the business. You are the business effectively. And that doesn't mean that you can't carry insurance. Of course you can do that. But when I say that I like to structure my businesses in a way that gives me peace of mind, there's a couple things that I always think about setting up upfront. So I, for myself, create a limited liability company. That's how I structure myself in business. So I create a limited liability company, pick a state that is advantageous for you and the type of business that you're running. You're going to have to do a little research there to determine what makes the most sense. Do you pick your own state? Do you pick a state like Delaware? Do you pick Wyoming? You have to do that research to determine which LLC state you're going to domicile your entity in. But that gives you the protection of saying that your business is separate and apart from you. It's a different entity. It doesn't go as far as to say that it's a corporation which is taxed completely separately from you as the human. But it does give you a little bit of separation from you, the person, and the business that you've built. So I come up with an LLC name, whatever that LLC name is, whatever, it's a placeholder. And then as I'm building my business, I'm going to go ahead and I usually contract with a company that files all the paperwork to make the LLC, to publish it and make it legitimate, and because different jurisdictions have different rules. So I usually hire someone to do that work for me. I have a close friend who did it all herself at one point in time, found the publications to publish her LLC name and all of that. That worked for her. For me, I used a service. So, totally up to you how you want to do it. But again, that limited liability company is exactly what it sounds like, limiting your liability as an individual. So it's protective for me to make sure that any business that I'm running, I have an LLC for that business. And I go so far as to ILLC every independent venture, everything. So if I'm working on a project and that project falls outside of the scope of the intention of the LLC that I'm building, let's pretend the LLC that I'm building is a consulting LLC, and then I'm looking at acquiring a property, I'm going to have a different LLC for the property acquisition that's completely outside of the scope of the consulting business. And then if I'm going to set up a distribution company, which I have done, I like sort of goods and, selling goods. If I'm going to do that, I have a completely different LLC for that as well. So I have multiple limited liability companies. This is what helps me do my bookkeeping with a bookkeeper the right way. And that's another part of setting yourself up properly, is making sure from day one you are tracking all of your receipts and keeping track of which entity you're spending against. How I've done this for myself was actually really easy. One of the first things I did was I set up a hierarchy at my financial institution of all of the different entities that I have. So you get an LLC put together, you get a TIN, a tax ID number from the government. And with that TIN, you go and you open up an account somewhere, a bank account. It can be an online digital bank. It can be a regular bank. It can be a credit union, whatever. You open your account. And when you do that, you now have a legitimate place from which revenues can enter and expenses can flow. And then I also always attach to it a credit card, a business credit card, not a personal one, a business credit card. And I'm literally now in business. But the purpose of the business credit card is to link it to some sort of bookkeeping technology, however you want to do the link. There's tons of different ways. So that when I go and I spend, what I always think about is, is this expense for this entity or for that entity? And if it's for this entity, it's going to be automatically uploaded into my bookkeeping software. I don't have to sit down every month. No offense, I love my dad, but sit down every month with all of your individual receipts to go through them and log them. I automate that stuff. Sorry, Dad, I love you, but I've automated my life. So I go through that process of getting the LLC set up ASAP, getting the TIN, and then getting the bank accounts. And friends, I can now do this in that much time, because once you've set up a system for yourself, you can be off to the races with your entity created and all of the accounts and the credit card and the bookkeeping, all of that done in a couple days. Like truly, it's the United States actually makes it quite easy. I understand that overseas it's really hard at times, depending on the country. So that's what I do. I structure myself so that I am very thoughtful up front about how money is being spent and automating it and making sure that I am really, really focused on not having to try to do that after the business has gotten completely ramped up and off the ground. I don't want to have to backtrack through all the spend I've had prior to then shoehorn it in and try to make it work as I've gotten off the ground. So ounce of prevention is worth so incredibly much as you're setting up a new business venture for yourself. I said I would talk a little bit about guardrails and what it means to have guardrails around what you're trying to build, but not have perfection in it. So the beauty of building something is you're on your own. Oh, of course you can tap into people and you can ask questions and get advice, which is going to be my third point. But right now I'm just talking about you're starting down the path. The path is ahead of you, and you're trying to decide what you're going to build, and you're trying to understand what product you're going to bring to market. And there is a danger. There's a danger to get so locked in very early on to an idea or a thought before that idea or thought is so fully fleshed out. And where does the danger come from? A lot of times it comes from fear, right? Fear of getting things wrong, fear of judgment, fear of making a mistake. So you say, I'm going to build this thing, and I'm going to so commit to building this thing, and I'm not going to receive that feedback. I'm not going to kind of flow as I need to. So I don't set up guardrails. I sort of set myself on this really defined path, but I don't allow myself to flex within wider guardrails. So using myself as an example, I know what my end game is. I'm really clear on my end game. I want to help put capital in the hands of women. Full stop. Capital in the hands of women. Women really struggle to access capital. I don't have to go through the research to prove that. It's true. I live it. Other women live it. There's tons of data. Women struggle getting capital. And it's especially true in industries where historically there haven't been a lot of women in those industries. So my end game is to build a fund, and that fund specifically targets getting capital into the hands, whether it's debt capital, like a debt fund, or it's equity capital. Still working through the mechanics there, right? I've got my guardrails. I know it's going to be that structure. I just don't know exactly how it's going to look yet. That my end game, my end purpose is helping to get capital to women. But do I have to do that all on day one? Do I have to do that right now? Right this second? No, who said I have to do it right now? Is there a teacher behind me putting an A+ or A- on my paper? No, it's me against me. It's me working with me. It's me coming up with a strategy. It's me thinking through what are the stages and steps and how might I phase this. So I know what my end goal is, but I can chunk it and I can phase it the way that I think makes sense to phase it. So for me, the first leg of the stool, because there's going to be multiple legs of the stool of LegaSHE that I am building, the first leg of the stool within the guardrails is an underwriting concept, underwriting as a service, right? Because underwriting as a service is an incredibly important service. Behind the scenes, the LegaSHE underwriting as a service platform is all female behind the scenes. So I'm already helping women in commercial real estate in a very subtle way. And I'm serving lots of clients. There's a huge, potential in this space. But behind the scenes, I'm living my purpose as step one and stage one. And then there will be step two, and then there will be step three. And nobody is keeping score. Nobody is saying, well, you said you were going to build a fund and okay, critic on the sidelines doing nothing. Like what that doesn't compute, nor does it resonate with me to have to think about the judgment of others in any way. So that guardrails are, I'm helping women in commercial real estate. There's a lot of space that fits within those guardrails, and I can chunk it and phase it any way I want to. There is no one way to do it. My way of doing it may be different from that person's way, may be different from that person's way. I have the purpose, I have the end game, and then how I walk down the path is fully at my discretion, as long as it fits within the purpose of what I'm trying to build. So when I said up front, you kind of have to come into this with a loose, being comfortable pivoting and with that idea of what the guardrails are, but being able to be flexible within those guardrails. This is the mindset that helps you hone in on something that's really important to you, but then build along the way in a way that gets the product in the hands of the users that's going to create the most value. I have to be open-minded to how that value can be created, and can it be created over 1 year? Can it be created over 5 years? Can it be created over 10 years? It's not all the second I have to get 4 billion things done. I have to logically step through how I build over time to the end game, but within the guardrails that I've established for myself. And I have to use a lot of mental flexibility because I'm the only one who determines whether I'm on track or off track. And last I checked, I'm on track because I said I'm on track. Last but certainly not least, product market fit. So remember, I just spoke a bit about guardrails and playing within a nice band of possibilities. Well, when you hone in on something within that band of possibilities, you need to really quickly determine whether or not there's a product that fits your market. And this is hard. This is not, well, one person said that they like this, so therefore it's going to be a hit. There's research and a lot of advice requesting that you need to undertake. And this can be paralyzing for many people. Showing up on someone who you respect's doorstep and saying, would you pretty please rip my idea to shreds? Tell me all the ways this thing is going to go wrong. Because you need that. You need that incoming. Now, there's a danger when you're getting that incoming. There's something called the graveyard of ideas, where if you get enough negative feedback on something that you're working on, you might inadvertently kill something that there's a kernel in there that could really be workable, but you took all that negative feedback and you just gave it up and said there's no way I can make it work. So you have to have this really interesting balance between having a lot of confidence in your ability to pull something off that other people don't yet see, because they can't see it just yet because it's in your mind and you're trying to figure out how to build it. So you have confidence that you can figure out how to build something. But you also have to weigh that against asking for advice from others who are maybe your potential user and taking that feedback and incorporating that feedback. So for me, the last little while, I've been reaching out to folks who I know and who I know are going to tell me honestly whether they like something or they don't like something. And they're going to give me really good examples. And I'm doing this openly, directly. I'm not attempting to sell in any way. I'm just showing up and saying, I have this idea and this is what I'm thinking about. And, tell me what you really think about this. Don't be shy. Tell me. And the incoming has been great. And it's allowing me to hone in with some of that feedback with my own conviction. My own conviction. Sometimes someone will say, I could never see how this would work. This would never work. And I say, okay, I'm coming at it from this angle. You're looking at it from this angle. Of course, from that angle, it's not going to work. But I still have conviction in this thing. So I'm going to keep moving forward. When you show up humbly, openly, open-mindedly, asking for advice and feedback from people who are entrepreneurial and are ahead of you, you're going to get tons of golden nuggets. And sometimes they're going to go down paths that aren't as relevant to you, but you're going to get those golden nuggets, and you need them. So finding product market fit, there's no science to it. No science whatsoever. Just putting yourself out there and saying, is this an idea that I think could stick, getting some of this feedback from others, and then you're building, and at the same time as I'm getting this feedback, I'm also building at the same time, and I'm reaching out to potential clients. And I'm saying, do you want this thing that I'm building? And what would make you want this thing that I'm building? And what might make you not want this thing that I'm building? Where's the value add for you? How do you look at it? And I have to do that in I'm asking for advice. I'm going to market with a product at the same time. And I have to be willing to take all of this incoming, some of which is going to be fabulous and really helpful, and some of which is going to be it's going to knock me about. And what do I do with it? I smile. I say thank you, because my creation is not who I am. My creation is not the value of me. This is my creation, and I love it, and I'm trying to figure out how to nurse it and grow it up to a toddler and make it a teen and then make it an adult. I'm trying to figure out how to do that, but I'm not in love with this. I'm not in love with this, and it's also not my value. This creation is not my personal value. So when somebody says, I don't like your creation, my ego's not taking a hit. My ego's not taking a hit at all. I'm listening very open-mindedly, and I'm saying, oh, you don't like this. Tell me why. Let's look at it again, and let's kind of look around all the sides and help me figure out what's not quite working. I can't do that if I'm in love with it. I have to keep myself. So when you're doing product market fit, you best never fall in love with your product. Don't fall in love with that. You need to be able to remain impartial in that conversation. That's really important. And then sometimes at the end of the day, the creation, the thing that you thought you were going to give life and you're going to grow, sometimes at the end of the day, it doesn't grow. And that's okay too. That's beautiful learning for yourself. You've just become a smarter human through the process of elimination, of figuring out whether or not your idea can actually take flight. You're not a failure. You've just figured out a golden bit of knowledge that there's a path that certain people would never even dream of going down because there's so much fear of the rejection and the failure and all. You learned a tremendous amount through that process. So embrace the process of determining whether or not your product fits a potential market. Embrace the love for I'm trying to build, the action of building. Don't fall in love with the creation itself. Get that feedback, determine what makes sense in the feedback that you're receiving, and decide whether or not you want to keep growing the creation up to toddlerhood and then teenager and adulthood. This is your challenge. This is how we climb the mountain of building something. And sometimes you will leave things on the side of the mountain and you'll pick something else up, but you're not starting back from zero. You're starting from a place of more knowledge than you had ever had before. This is the beauty of working through setting up the business, creating your guardrails, and then starting to work through product market fit. It's a challenge that a lot of folks find really scary. And you're going to get knocked about, but you're going to become as you go through the process. You're going to become, and you're going to become so much more grounded, so much more calm, so much more understanding of what makes people tick and why they find value in certain things and the other things they don't find value in. And you'll be able to set up a business in your sleep. And when you see something coming down the road, because you've seen this play out before, you'll be able to react in a much more calm, neutral way, right? This is all the learning that you receive as you go through this process. I hope that this was helpful to you. It's me musing on what it's like to be on this journey. If you're considering this type of journey, just take a breath. Realize that the journey itself is the beauty of what you're building. It's not the end state that's the beauty. It's the journey that's the beauty. Have a wonderful day.